echo. We are going to jump into game 3, ladies and gentlemen. Legacy Genesis versus Outlaws, and Mendrix is going to step out for now. He's like, hey, you can't kick me out. Get out of here, man.
This is my home now.
This is no.
I got this.
Legacy Genesis, Artiferns, Plug, Hayri, of course, coming through. So Plug is going to be in the jungle, normally as support.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Drakon and Tilting are your bottom lane. And on Outlaws this week, it's going to be Flick up in the top lane. Vibes is still in the jungle. And Willaris stepping back into mid. So no Rain, no Scam Diggity, Young Cat, and K-Pop. Remember, Legacy Genesis are losing their first 3 bans there. And Outlaws, that means they're going to ban away Zach. Legacy Genesis on blue side, unfortunately, means we don't get to see the Zach.
I know. It's so heartbreaking when they're the ones who lose the bans, but they get first pick priority. So if you don't get the Galio away, expect it to be picked up. Hopefully Legacy Genesis are the people who break the trend of OCS and actually start playing Galio mid lane, but we're hypothesizing way into the future. Going back to the lineup that you were just talking about, where Laris had a brief stint in the mid lane, then moved into support, now back into the mid lane where he belongs. You know, arguably it's his strongest role. And also Flick, last split was in Corvidae, now he's moved over to Outlaws. I expect to see a lot from that, but Legacy Genesis, look, Babip over in Vietnam following the rest of his sister team over there. If there's a hole, then you need to plug it, right?
Yes, Preacher, you need to plug the hole. This is... Alright, so now maybe we'll work a little bit better. I was throwing some spicy memes, like 3 level... This guy had ramen today. 3 levels spicy. They're like, do you want it 1, 2, or 3? And he's like, I have 3. That ramen was all seeds and all chili. Yep. That's all it was. That's how spicy this game's going to be.
Exactly. So if Dragon comes in and he doesn't breathe fire, I'm going to be really mad.
Drakon, okay.
Drakon.
He had a yell at me. He said, you're not saying my name right. I said, it's not even me, man. I say Con. Drakon. Zach LeBlanc banned away. This is a strange second ban, but the Fiora, which means Galio first pick is just open.
Yeah, and that's really strange because if they go for a Galio, then the natural counter to that in the top lane at least is a Fiora. So banning that away from themselves might just be shooting themselves in the foot.
As well.
Yeah, exactly. Top, mid, either way that you spin it.
Exactly right. I mean, the Karma can be a flex. You know, Hayri, I know this guy would pick it up in the mid lane. Tilting in the past has played things like Nami, but the Kha'Zix, is it first pick worthy? We're about to find out. As Outlaws now have the run of the mill, the Galio's open, the Thresh is open as well.
So normally I would say that Kha'Zix isn't first pick priority, especially when you have the likes of Elise on the board and whatnot. But because Plug is coming in from a support position, it might be one of his limited champion pools, and they just want to get things over and done with, make sure that he gets a pick that he's comfortable on so that he isn't really struggling when they come to going into the very first game with him.
Big priority in the OCS, a little bit different from what you'd normally see in the OPL, whereas Renekton first pick. I mean, that is a blind Renekton when something like the Galio, I guess, is open. That is a blind Renekton with a couple of top lane choices available. The Caitlyn for Young Cat. Very important there. Let's see what Legacy Genesis respond with.
Yeah, but if they go for the Galio, then at the very least in laning phase, Flick is going to have a good time. Renekton does very well into the Galio. It's only late game when Galio starts becoming that monster. But yeah, Renekton is one of the best blind picks just because there's barely any lanes that he loses, and the ones that he loses doesn't really lose too much because he can at least trade very evenly. With the Rumble, you just dash up to him, Q, get a lot of health back.
All the Jarvan coming through.
He just wrecks Jarvan.
Well, I mean, Jarvan will be picked, however, into the Renekton. I'm glad you said that.
In laning phase.
In laning phase. Okay. Well, I mean, Renekton wrecks everyone.
Yes.
The name wrecked is almost in his name.
Close, but not quite.
Well, I mean,
if you can spell.
Well, no. Well, that rules me out. Artiferns in the top lane. Going to be Jarvan. That's going to be an interesting matchup as we see that the Elise picked in the last slide of rotations is ban phase number 2 now. Legacy Genesis do have bans in this phase, however. Shake things up a bit.
Yeah. They want to either ban away the ADC or potentially the mid lane.
Yep.
Both of those are really good options. Now that Kate is picked on the side of Outlaws, they want to take away Jhin. But yeah, Legacy do have a lot of good picks that are going over. If you ban away a support, like for instance the Tahm Kench, which would work really well because you have got the pick potential of the Elise Cocoon, then that could be something really strong for them.
And the Jhin banned away from Drakon. I mean, Jhin coming up in priority in the OCS. Very, I feel like the Jhin AD carry is sometimes a little bit unreliable. Like you saw in last game, if Sombre falls behind or he builds, you know, going for that early to mid game and can't really engage fights or at least start fights. I mean, we didn't really see the curtain call. We didn't see, you know, the priority used in the Jhin kit. But the Ashe banned away, I think that's a much better ban. because Drakon doesn't have the AD carry.
Yeah, but in last game, pretty much the one reason why Jin failed to execute was because one of his key signature moves is using his ultimate to start a fight to force people off of objectives or to slow people running towards him. If you've got it all off with Ragnarok, it doesn't work. So in this game, it's not going to happen, but that was why it wasn't really good to execute in the last game.
Vladimir, the last ban by Legacy Genesis, you can see on your screen there. Outlaws, as they have first pick on red side in this second phase. See if they go for that support. I mean, they've left it till now. The Nami would be a big size surprise to me. Thresh is still open and available, but left through this selectors. The Nami picked up the K-pop.
Yeah, K-pop is very comfortable in this Nami. You already saw it in the OPL. He performed there on Regicide, his very brief debut when he did play in the OPL. And, you know, this guy just loves pop rock and popping off. So he's going with the Nami.
Well, 2 memes in a champion select. You're definitely going for the record there. Oh, I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Varus going to come through for Drakon. This is a champion who, you know, has had success. I talk about AD carries who can go up against Caitlyn or go comfortably.
One of the best.
Yeah, one of the best right now. Varus going up against Caitlyn and locked in finally. Heyru will be on Syndra.
Yeah, and Syndra's once again the same as Renekton on the other side in the sense that it's a good blind pick because the mid laner hasn't been picked for Outlaws yet and they have no idea what they're going into. So Syndra, extremely strong, long range, and she just has a lot of utility to deal with anyone.
I definitely think the last pick is crucial here. It is going to be a mid laner, and I'm not sure if they're going to go, thank you so much, Willaris. Thought he's going to bring the Twisted Fate back, but no, the Orianna going up against Syndra, which can sometimes be a bit of a challenge, you know, for the Orianna, but farm back, stay safe.
Yeah, for the most part, it's just a farm fest in this lane in which both of them are going to use really long range. And Willaris has actually played Orianna quite a bit in previous OCSs, so we know for certain that he can pull that out. And it's a classic syndrome where if you're playing against a good Orianna, all of a sudden you feel as if her ball has just a little bit more range than it has when you play it, and you just wonder, Willaris, how are you getting all of this CS without getting hit by Syndrome?
No, I mean, that's the faker syndrome going on there. You'd be like, that shockwave shouldn't have hit, but you're like, I remember who's
But I
playing
stood
now.
on top of it.
But I stood... That's all right. If I'm in the middle, it's like the centrifuge. It's like, I'll be fine. Dead center, I'll be fine.
I have the storm. I have the storm.
You
You stand right in the middle, and there's just nothing. You just don't get hit.
You tried that?
No.
No.
Funnily enough, I'm not a storm chaser.
No. Get your camera out, boys. We're going in. We're going in late game. As you can see on your screen, everything's just happening there all at once. That looks fun. But it is going to be a composition which really relies on that shockwave, on either the Cocoon as well, and Renekton to kind of clean up. With the Caitlyn, I mean, taking it a little bit to late game, it feels like the comp a little bit messy, but still got the Caitlyn reliability.
Yeah, and the Caitlyn, as we saw in games past, will always have that late game. You know, she's one of those champions who does very well. And there's no check and counter for her on the other side. No. There's nobody who can really zone her out. There's nobody who can really pressure her to the point where she has to choose between walking or autoing. And if she chooses autoing, then she's going to take a lot or take a lot of CC in return. So this is going to be a really fun and free-hitting game for Caitlyn if they manage to make it into late game. But one thing that I want to highlight for next week, which is going a little bit forward into the future, but one thing that I want to highlight for the enemies of both of these two teams in week number 3 is the fact that Galio completely escaped pick and ban phase, which means that neither of these two teams are comfortable enough in picking him up, which is fine for today because it means that the other team isn't comfortable either and they don't have to deal with it on the Rift. But as time progresses, as time goes on, that's really going to bite them.
I mean, that's something really big, and that's a big point as well. It's champions like, you know, even Lee Sin. It's champions like the Galio, you know, leaving these things. The Thresh. These are 3 champions. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm doing that. But it's these 3 champions that need to be prioritized because they are so strong at the moment. And in 7.12, these champions not being utilized means that you could be a loss of words. When you go up against some of those better teams like Abyss Academy, like Athletico Esports, and the fact that both of these teams do not want to play them is a big concern, like you said, in the leading up weeks.
Yeah, it's massive, but there is a week, of course, and that means that you can get your stats down. I believe the Galio is banned in roughly 50% of games, so if you just spam a lot, then hopefully you should be able to get him.
Yep.
Not the worst case scenario, but yeah, like I said, Gauntlet's been thrown down. Hopefully, some team in the future, hopefully next week, will be able to break the O's curse and bring Galio into the mid lane because he does actually offer a lot of viability for other lanes. It means that it opens up top to be a carry. Fiora, Camille, Kennen, all of those do exceptionally well. And
Camille and Kennen were both available in this game, so we are raising questions and we're raising hands at this pick and ban phase for both teams, but let's see if these compositions come into success. I mean, the Orianna played for the first time tonight, I believe. Unless, am I losing my mind? No, I'm right. Fantastic for once. Galio, no mid, no worries. Okay, so let's look realistically at that top lane. You go the Rumble, sorry, you go the J4, you go the Renekton. Now, laning phase, a bit of a problem, but the J4, I mean, has just been popping off across the world. And in 7.12, he's still strong. He's still great.
Exactly. I mean, once you take him into mid-game, once you take him into late game, his catch potential with his ultimate, if you manage to wait until the Caitlyn uses a 90 caliber net, then use your flag drag ultimate, she either has to flash or there's no real way out for her. So that's going to be a real point of concern when you go into the late game. I mean, Nami doesn't really have a good way of getting around. There's no descent, there's no lantern there. So yeah, it's going to be really difficult for this Caitlyn to execute.
And both the Threshers tonight have been playmakers, and I want to see if that Zyra can do exactly that. So we are about to jump into Legacy Genesis take on Team Noxide. Losing those 3 bans, I mean, it doesn't seem like it affected them too much.
Yeah, all in all, the Champions League didn't look like it would have been altered as if there were 3 bans, because all of the meta picks were actually left very, very late. I want to point out specifically how the Kha'Zix was picked first and the Elise went over to the other side.
Strange priority, yeah.
Yeah, it was very strange. I mean, once again, we do have to give the little condition that Plug is usually a support player, so securing him a jungler, making sure that he doesn't get banned out or his champion pool whittled away to the point where he gets countered is always a good thing for that.
And I think picking up that Kha'Zix first is going to show if Plug is really ready to adapt. Preacher. Do you know?
I got it!
You got it?
I got it!
Just not one of yours?
No, because initially my thought went to Adaptive Helm, and I was about to give you a whole spiel about how it's not a great item at the current moment.
Especially not if you're going to build it on Kha'Zix. Be like, let's do Warrior, let's do Black Cleaver, let's do Adaptive Helm.
Oh man, that's going to work out so well into an Orianna.
Do a Singed?
No, but he's getting a buff later.
Is he?
Yeah.
Kha'Zix or Adaptive Helm?
No, Singed.
What?
714. Let's get it.
Oh god, I don't want that to happen. No more proxy Singed. That was a meta for a while. Let's not forget. That was, what was that response into? Wasn't into Galio. He wasn't there yet.
It wasn't meta because it was picked a lot, but it didn't win a lot, especially not in competitive. I mean, I'm casting my mind back to Pabu, how he almost won the game for Abyss, and then he just kind of threw it by picking Singed in the third game or whatever.
All right, we are going to jump into game number 3 now, ladies and gents. Interesting night for us on the OCS. Legacy Genesis will take on Outlaws. And look at these invade pings already coming through. Here we go.
Here we go, boys. Ready to roll?
Oh, yeah?
Not too many strange things.
Get the duffel bag?
Yeah, I got the duffel bag, mate, so I'm ready to roll. But the one thing that I want to point out is the fact that both of these junglers have actually started Talisman as opposed to Hunter's Machete. That naturally means that they want to start at the Raptor camp to make sure that they can get that accelerator level 2.
Yeah. Looks like Zyra just playing bait, tilting.
Wants to get the plants down.
3. Oh, this is going to be fun.
They don't see him. Young Cat don't. No, he stepped on it. You know.
I'm not sure.
He just gave it away. You have single-handedly ruined this entire operation.
Plug is going to find Willaris on the side, and Outlaws could have been a lot worse, but... oh, man. That did not... Nothing happened.
No.
That could have been so much fun.
That was a whole lot of nothing, because usually what Zyras do is they walk up very far into their bottom lane in order to set up some plants. Level 1, they either use their Q or their E, and then the plants do a whole lot of zoning and a whole lot of damage over to the enemy champions. But I just have no idea why Young Cat didn't step back a little, make sure that tilting moved forward, and then just collapse on him.
Well, botched invade. Legacy Genesis just go back to a regular fan. Will be a Raptor start by Vibes, who started with that volatile spidling, of course. Start for Kha'Zix, going to be the same. And Plug, he's got a lot to prove here today. Normally a support player going straight into the jungle. That's a very different adaptation to make. Especially, I mean, you know, Kha'Zix, reasonably easy champion to execute. Works really well with a 1-3-1. There's a 1-4 composition they're running here. Let's see how he plays out.
Yeah, hopefully he should be able to perform as the game progresses into the mid-game, but the earlier on the game goes, it's going to be a little bit challenging for Plug because it means that he has to play with this team who, at least as far as we know, he hasn't had too much synergy with. And Kha'Zix is one of the more difficult champions to play into the jungle because he doesn't bring any CC to the team. So he either has to gank top lane because Artiferns has a lot of CC in his flag drag, or he's not going to find a lot of success except for burst elsewhere.
Artiferns getting forced back in this top lane. Flick. There's just about a full stack of Fury is Plug getting low with his blue buff. In comes Vibes.
Wait a minute.
Volatile Spidling. Plug going to be in trouble. No, the blue buff
really
stolen. And down comes Renekton. Flick for first blood.
And nobody can really predict that because Vibes just went red straight into the enemy. He went Raptors red straight into the enemy jungle. He only had level 2, so no level 3 ability, but it doesn't even matter. No Cocoon, no problem. He finds Plug half HP, throws his Volatile Spiderling, gets the blue, gets the kill as well.
Harry taking a lot of damage from Willaris here. Scatter the Weak to come through. One more orb, the heal to come in. Orianna taking heal, that's a new one for me, but Willaris getting very, very low. Vibes here to just help push out the wave. Good reaction from the Outlaws jungler, but Harry will farm underneath the turret, and it looks like Willaris will have to go back.
Yeah, Willaris definitely has to, but a lot of help from Vibes. That was very much needed, and Vibes could indeed spare the time because he got the blue, which accelerated his jungle, means that he doesn't need to waste time on one of his camps, or more importantly his HP. Just moves into the mid lane, make sure that he can support that, and now he's going to get a whole lot of support down onto the bottom side. He's going to get this Scuttle Crab, and from this point onwards, the race for who can gank the bottom lane first is on.
Never seen a race like it.
It's a slow one. I mean, it involves a lot of clearing and not actually going bot.
So like Snail.
Yeah.
Like the Snail versus Snail. There's not even a hair in this story, is there?
No, there's not.
Not
It's the hair in the tortoise, but no. In the top lane.
Plug's coming up. He's going to walk past a ward. Level 3. Renekton cannot do the 1v2 just yet. Not isolated. Doesn't matter. Plug still goes down. A flash down bottom. Vibes picks up tilting, so that's the response. The Outlaws jungler. 1-0-1.
Yep. Doing very well for Outlaws. Over on the other side, though, I want to quickly talk about how Plug managed to go into the top lane and get a kill onto Flick. And that was because earlier on, Flick burnt his flash. Now, we unfortunately, we knew that he went down into the jungle in order to assist Vibes when Vibes went in for the invade to get the blue buff, burned the flash there, and they called it. They timed it inside the chat, and they just said, this Renekton is pushing up very close to me, and he doesn't have a flash available. Jarvan flag drag, unfortunately didn't miss, but it's zoned Flick to move the long way. And we got to take a look at what happened down onto the bottom side. So Vibes comes in, and he finds tilting. So with the innate burst that simply comes out of Elise, they manage to get the kill, and he flashes out for safety.
I feel like there's a bit of burn on that. Probably didn't need to repel. Would have just killed him anyway. But, you know, better be safe than sorry. Vibes. No flash available. Plug already lost his earlier in the engage as well. But some deep vision. I mean, Vibes is someone we haven't really talked about. It's because we haven't seen enough of him. And to be fair, in week number 1, his jungling with Sol, put a lot of priority on vision. This week, it looks like he's doing the same. Playing a jungler like Elise, who has so much early game impact, seems to suit him well.
Yeah, you got a lot of control down, not to mention, of course, the invade that successfully happened. And one thing that is going to really linger for, at the very least, the next 5 minutes is the control ward that was placed on Legacy Genesis' blue. So that's going to be absolutely massive for Outlaws because they get to see when Plug goes up there, chances are Plug isn't going to walk into that brush. So he's not going to spot out that control ward until blue spawns, until he needs to go over there. Next 5 minutes, they're going to know exactly when he's topside and when he's not.
Like we said, putting the priority on that vision. Preacher, that's a good spot there because that control ward, like you said, happens a lot with the more advanced tier junglers. The control ward simply there to watch for when it's cleared. And usually it's by the time that blue buff's spawning. And Vibes will have that timer because he did take it away at like 40 health, mind you. Legacy Genesis bot lane seem to be doing well. They're pushing up, getting a bit of chip damage on this turret. Drakon and tilting. You expect the Zyra Varus to have that push potential early, but still sustained from K-Pop. So you're not going to really expect too much in this lane unless Vibes pays another visit, but all is well on Summoner's Rift for the time being.
And all is quiet as well, because down onto the bottom lane, there's also a Doran shield on Drakon, which means that he's just not going to take any damage. Young Cat, sure, you can get the random auto, the random Q off onto this Varus, but he hasn't even needed to pop his potion, so all is extremely well, but Vibes? He's looking for something mid. I don't think he can really get it because the minion wave is not lined up for his Cocoon.
Yeah, but he's got the mobility boots and he's got the Aether Wisp. Probably could have continued to walk in, but Harry, in the middle of this lane, makes himself vulnerable if he pushes any further. Expect Vibes to still be hanging around. Level 5 on the Elise. Caught out. K-Pop has to flash. The plant has one more sneaky hit. Now Plug.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Flick.
no, not again. Holy moly, Renekton, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's just Renekton being Renekton early game. Not too sure what Plug was doing over there. Everybody pretty much expected it because they haven't seen Plug for ages, and they just say, can he be on the bottom side of this map? Very unlikely. Can he be in the top side? Well, we haven't seen him out, so just go in. But Willaris.
Flash from Willaris tries to slow down Hayri. There's the command protect. One more auto attack. The shockwave whiff. No! Hayri slowed down by dissonance.
Well,
he had one more auto in him. Yeah, I mean, the shockwave goes down, but so does the unleashed power. Both summoners burned, however, from Willaris, and now K-Pop's the mid laner.
Yeah, and Vibes is coming in. He's super fast.
Scatter the weak. Going to slow down the mobility boots. Just reset it right there. Outlaws jungler will push this wave, force it into Hayri, who doesn't have much mana. Plug still hanging around the mid as well, but a botched play in the mid lane may not be the worst or end-all for Willaris. Just means he has no summoners, and Plug hanging around this area.
Definitely not, and we already just saw an awesome showcase of what Vibes is capable of with this early game mobility build. It means that he can always be there when his lane is needed. He wasn't even planning to go into the mid lane, but because Willaris burned both of his summoners, was losing out massively in the trade with Hayri, he managed to make it there on time. Unfortunately, doesn't find any sort of response onto Hayri, but still, we know what Vibes is capable of, and he definitely reacts. He's willing to leave jungle camps in order to go to his lanes, which is really important.
And this is a really good reactionary dragon as well, because once Hayri picked up the wave, he had no health, he had no mana, he had to back. And now Outlaws will secure the first dragon of the game, which is an Infernal. It's going to be a double Infernal. The possibilities are endless, and Vibes making it happen right here. I mean, got to give it to Flick as well, the guy who used to just play Nautilus on Corvidae.
But now it's carry meta.
Here we go, baby.
He is definitely performing on this Renekton. I mean, I think it's a little bit too early to say, and there is always a condition that Renekton naturally wins a whole lot of things early on, but still, his presence of mind to really figure out that Plug was going into his jungle, despite the fact that I don't believe Plug walked over any wards in order to indicate it, just allowed him to really get it.
Flick, being spotted out by a ward, is going to take the Scuttle Crab, just like he's the jungler. Down comes... No.
No, what? No!
Oh, Flick, don't chicken out. Man,
you know that you can win that early on. What? What's going on?
He could have 1v2. Do you think Jarvan and Kha'Zix can Renekton this early? My eyes wander over to someone who's not in the cast right now. I feel like Renekton can 1v2 this early.
Most certainly, especially given the fact that if you don't if you don't kill the Scuttle Crab, that also takes away the isolate, but here comes the tidal wave.
Tidal wave, the tsunami to come through, chains of corruption, rooted up.
What?
The burst damage. Drakon picks up Vibes and says, get off my lawn.
And that's just tilting Zyra, the special bit.
Oh, the Cataclysm. Willaris, you need to shockwave now. Hayri to pick up the kill. Two members, and across the map, Outlaws are getting decimated as now the bubble, the Aqua Prison, rooting in. Young Cat flashes and misses the net, but it's okay. Outlaws will respond with one.
Yeah, Outlaws do manage to find something, but what they lose out is the first turret.
Renekton got it. Flick got the first turret in that top lane. That could have been really, really vital, but Outlaws now lead purely because of that first turret bonus.
Yeah, and that first turret bonus went over to Renekton as well, which means that along with the Infernal Drake, he's not going to be descaling anytime soon. He's got the comfort to build damage. He's already got both the makings of a Titanic and a Black Cleaver. Go back, finish either one of them, and you're going to be sitting in a really good position, especially going against Artiferns on this Jarvan, who hasn't had the most impact in this game, despite the fact that he has got 2 assists. He's not going to be able to deal with this Renekton, at the very least, not 1v1.
However, with that mid-lane turret down, it feels like Hayri might have a bit more potential to roam around the map.
Definitely.
Not that he is sort of scared of Syndra, you know, about 20 seconds before she gets there, but Willaris might just want to push in now, play a little bit more safe. He's fallen behind in CS. You can see that the whole of Outlaws mob find themselves ahead, apart from Willaris, but it is still the Orianna. It's still so much utility in that shockwave. Morellonomicon finally finished for Hayri in the mid lane. No first item for the Varus, but those big plays, both mid and bot, making some work. Young Cat getting a kill on the Caitlyn. Going to be interesting when he gets the Infinity Edge, how they play it out, because the Zyra is always going to be scary. This pretty much this whole game.
Yeah. I mean, sure, the kill onto Caitlyn means that he's going to have a lot of an easier laning phase going into this Zyra, but yeah, Zyra is still going to be a nuisance at the very least for the next 2 to 3 minutes.
Flick, what are you doing?
He's just having a walkabout. He's a crocodile. He doesn't care. Man. He's trying to clear out as much vision as he can for his team. He's doing a really good job of it.
Plug down the bottom lane now, waiting for a gank. But look, here's Vibes. It's not watered in this brush. Chain of Corruption coming through, Tidal Wave. They're going to get caught. 3 members again. Repel. Plug goes into Youngcat. Horribly wrong for Outlaws. The jump on, a double kill. Here's the teleport play. It's Artifurns jumping. Here comes Flick. Big Renekton. Crocodile Dundee is going nuts. Flick gets a kill. Traded off. Artifurns, a double kill for the Renekton. And that solo gold is doing work. The heal, the flash. Slice and dice, baby. Triple kill as Willaris to flash away from the orb. He goes back in. Shockwave not available, but Flick looking for the quadra kill, and he gets it. Crocodile, man. Steve Irwin would be proud as it comes through with an ace.
What a madman! Flick just doesn't care. Teleport into the middle of the enemy team despite the fact that one of his members fell down, and he still managed to pick up a quadra and the ace for his team. That is insane. Using Renekton's ability so early on, accelerating the fact that he got 2 kills before all of this had even started, and he is well and truly on the board.
Man, I'm jumping up and down 6-1-1 on Flick, and he comes through. I saw that first teleport. I saw the Jarvan come through. Let's watch this bad boy again.
All right, so everybody gets baited by tilting because tilting Zyra is simply one of the strongest one-tricks in the game. But here comes the teleport from both of them, and they just chase way too far ahead. Now, Legacy Genesis in between a wall and a Renekton.
It was a big shockwave as well.
Yeah, it was a massive shockwave, but at the end of the day, you really got to take a look at Flick. He doesn't even drop below half health throughout this entire engage. Hayri uses both of his summoners, but just doesn't matter. It's too little too late, and he's not going to have that for the next 5 minutes as well. All in all, extremely punishing.
Great flash by Willaris there as well. He would have been dead as anything, but Flick coming out better. And now Outlaws, after that massive team fight, they're only ahead by 1,000 gold, but you've got a Renekton you have to worry about, who is very close to that Titanic Hydra. 14 minutes, and this guy's almost got 2 items on Renekton. This is nuts.
Yeah, this is absolutely bonkers. At the very least for the top lane, it means that Artifurns, you either call up a lot of assistance or you just give stuff away. Now, Legacy Genesis, they're very smart. Of course, they're moving on to the other side of the map.
Legacy Genesis will pick out that bottom lane turret and try and alleviate some of that pressure, but 2-to-1 in turrets, they do not have that dragon. And remember, it is an Infernal Drake. Outlaws have the ability to pick up a double Infernal if they can secure that bottom lane pressure, but after that turret going down, feels like Legacy Genesis want to get it for themselves.
Yeah, but Legacy Genesis, while they do have a whole lot of pressure down to the bottom side because they managed to break the turret, they don't have a lot of positioning advantage, and all of the members practically of Outlaws are now down here, so 5v5, not what Legacy Genesis want to take.
Flick's down here as well.
I mean, he doesn't need to do damage to Dragon. He just needs to be zoning.
No, well, he's gone in. Plug is going to get caught out. The Shockwave bounced around. See you later, Bug. The kill will go over to Willaris, and guess what? They get the Infernal as well.
Unfortunately, Plug in his debut as jungler tried to go for the steal. Doesn't usually work out when you got a whole lot of nerds playing a new role. Flick manages to help the rest of his team take it down. You just got to take a look at the way that he's zoned pretty much everybody else.
Strange Rift Herald.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably the not the longest lane, but the most important lane, but
it is extremely important.
No, it's not strange. The turret's still there. I take it back. The flash forward with a cocoon. Maybe this is a little bit more strange. Hayri burst it down. K-pop to secure it. Wow. The bell in the air means that the turret will go down as well as the kill. Rift Herald supporting Outlaws right now. He's going to go for another charge, Jimmy.
We're going in.
Oh, yeah. Move aside. Bit of chip damage and Legacy Genesis, sorry. Fallen behind 3,000 gold at 16 minutes. And it just seems that Outlaws, a mob that we have been underrating so far. It's only week 2, but hey, put yourself in their shoes right now. They're kicking ass and they're taking names.
Definitely, and one of those names is Legacy Genesis. Take a look over to that side. Hayri, you got a question. What was he doing defending that mid lane? You got 4 members of Outlaws, nearly 5, coming down with a Rift Herald. Just a quick PSA, generally you can't defend that, especially not as a Syndra in the early game. You don't have enough wave clear to take down all of it. Rift Herald is on full HP. They're going to break down the mid turret. You should have just left, gets caught out, and dies for his troubles. Fortunately enough, that's all they got, 1 kill and 1 turret, but it could have been a whole lot worse. Outlaws could have really pushed the envelope and got a second one.
It feels like they're similar comps in terms of execution. I mean, you wouldn't run a 1-3-1 with any of these comps, would you?
No.
No. So big team fight into the mid to late game stage. I mean, the Jarvan versus the Renekton. Jarvan just goes nuts, does he not? He's going to be a massive frontline.
Yeah, I mean, and he's also going to have a lot of damage when it comes down to really bursting down the back line of Outlaws. But in terms of bursting down the back line of the enemy team, can you really look past this massive Croc?
He's going to be a bruiser. The Crocodile's going to be big. But the Jarvan will be tankier, will he not?
Yes, because if he goes for the Black Cleaver Titanic into the Gargoyles and Locket of the Iron Solari, then that will work out really well for him.
Locket Jarvan.
Yeah, Locket Jarvan. You go Gargoyles and then Locket because it has massive
Zeke's
synergy.
Convergence. Onto Drakon. Yes. Why not? If you're going to do Locket, just do Zeke's Convergence.
Not quite onto a job.
Mendrix's hands are in his head. In his hands or in his head. I don't know. English, not my strong suit sometimes. But it is still going to be Outlaws. Almost getting caught out by Scatter the Weak here. Cocoon will miss.
Wait a minute,
down.
he got rooted.
Bursted down. You're going to see Tilting pick up the kill. The help of Drakon. Chain of Corruption's down. 3 ultimates for Legacy Genesis. That's what they commit, and Drakon is low. K-Pop might be caught out as well.
I mean, there's not a lot to say about that situation. K-Pop, defense.
Shockwave to come through. Bursted. No, not this time,
TP.
Plug. Here's the TP. Who is it? Oh, Interior Crocodile Alligator. Man, I drive a Chevrolet movie theater. In comes Artiferns. Willaris. No Shockwave available. They know this.
Oh, hits.
Great Aqua Prison to come through. The follow-up damage. In goes Flick, boys. All right, he's been bursted up. Flick is in Dominus mode to come through. He's getting taken. A heal, another heal, and he will survive. Turret goes down, and Outlaws, I think they move out better.
After the first 2 kills, they don't even want to take any more. They just want to be able to zone Legacy Genesis off in order to take that turret, and they did so excellently with this Crocodile. So Flick going into the back line, making sure that everybody is off the turret, off the pressing forces of Outlaws in order to get that turret. He got pretty much all the advantage they could have in that push down onto the bottom side. Rest of his team just says, get in there. He does. Yeah. And they managed to get it all.
It seems like when Outlaws are fighting 4v4 without Artiferns, without Flick, it seems like Legacy Genesis just have the better executable team composition, but because Flick is so far ahead, Legacy Genesis cannot do anything against the split pusher. I mean, can you send Jarvan against him in the top lane? I feel like you send Jarvan to another lane because Flick will always win that trade.
Yeah, that's just a solid no. Renekton has already built both of his damage items. He's only going to get tankier from this point onwards. You don't really build any more damage after your Titanic and Black Cleaver. And he's got a double Infernal under his belt.
True.
So this is potentially his biggest peak in terms of damage. No, you don't put any one person against this guy, or else that one person is going to die.
K-Pop thinking he's been caught out. Plug uses the ultimate, but here comes Flick doing
no.
so much. Scatter the Weak there. Flick finally shut down. Cocoon will miss. And that's the biggest member of Outlaws down. What can they do? Young Cat. Was that ace in the hole?
Was
that not blocked?
It was.
Well, I don't know. It feels bad is an overused phrase, but is there ever a moment?
Man, that felt pretty bad.
That felt pretty bad. Outlaws will trade 1 for 1, but the biggest member is down. Does this mean anything for Legacy Genesis? Baron live, 45 seconds till next Drake.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably just going to get a whole lot of Drake pressure because Baron, they still can't go towards the top side of the
And there is no jungler, I guess, yeah.
Yep, there is no jungler, of course, so the best they can do is simply clear out the vision, make sure that they establish it down onto the bottom side. But speaking of feels bad, Flick in the middle of the enemy team gets baited into chasing more kills, which is something that Renekton shouldn't look at because it always means that a whole lot of the enemy around the corner Triple Infernal.
Oh, God. On a Renekton that's this big.
Yeah.
Triple Infernal, baby. I mean...
Oh, baby, triple.
Mountain would feel nice. Yeah. But
Infernal feels a little bit better for this guy because it means that he's not going to scale there.
Oh, well, yeah. Especially Legacy Genesis kind of don't want this to happen as Jarvan has found
what is this?
Artiferns jumps on with the Cataclysm, locked down, the Shockwave to go back, bursted! Willaris says, get out of here, mate! This is my kill, Plug can't get a feel for it, and a double kill to the Orianna, while the rest of Outlaws, I think they might just secure triple.
Yeah, not too sure why they tried to engage onto Willaris. Everybody was there, and the vision was definitely set up so that they could see them go down.
The Dragons this game. Mountain's next.
It's the dream. You literally cannot get any better than right now, unless I eat my words, and it's a second Mountain after this. But other than that, this is really the dream wombo combo. And
Harry's been caught out. Willaris gets yet another kill. 6-1 and 6. Now you have to worry about Orianna as well. Harry tries to get a pick on Willaris. Doesn't succeed. And now the Baron will go down. Chains of Corruption goes in. Flick might have found tilting. It's going to be the ultimate from Young Cat, who's just sitting in the Baron pit trying to tank. They're trying to challenge us still. There's the ultimate, the Stranglethorns to knock up Flick, but I think it's still going to be secured. And Baron goes over to Outlaws 22 minutes in this game. As much as Legacy Genesis tried to deny it, that's theirs.
And that was a natural progression of things that were to come. They got to Drake. They managed to get a pick down onto Hayri. You know what? 5 versus 4, triple Infernal. Of course you're going to go to the Baron. And there just wasn't enough CC that came out of Legacy Genesis in order to stop them, which is really sad considering that both of the major CC abilities were used down onto them. Chains of Corruption got 3 people. Tilting managed to zone out a whole lot of people with his Stranglethorns as well, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. It was too little too late, and all of this damage coming out of these Infernal Drakes is definitely helping Outlaws.
Feels like Legacy Genesis just need to conserve their vision, clear a little bit, and find the pick as maybe a 4 or 5 man unit. If you find either Willaris or Flick, you're going to have to worry about the other one.
Yep.
If you take one of them down, however, you might be able to stop this siege, but Baron buff, with it, they're going to take down a turret and enhance into about an 8k gold lead for Outlaws. Triple Infernal. Probably don't want to fight them right now.
Definitely not.
Or ever. No, we got to fight them sometime. Legacy Genesis backed into a corner as that inner turret is going to be taken down. Outlaws now waiting for the sun.
Yep, maybe. Sun's already up. It's extremely bright.
Artiferns? Oh, no.
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 Wrong way.
Oh, and he's like, oh, boy, I'm getting out.
Yep. First millisecond that he saw those particles of Baron start to go to the individual minions, he was like, nope. Just nope straight out of there and gets out. Current moment, there's just simply no way that he can deal with Flick. Triple Infernal. Look at him. He's BMing.
Yeah, Artiferns
is a big croc.
Trying to clear the wave, but you cannot deal with Flick. If Artifern sticks around, I feel like Flick can probably dive this. There is only a level difference, but the item difference is too much outweighing. Giant's Belt of Health and the Ninja Tabi.
And they got a really good siege composition for Outlaws because you can just place your Caitlyn traps down to make sure that the enemy can't go towards you, wondering where they are from Young Cat, but nonetheless, you've also got a whole lot of disengage from K-pop, and of course, the one thing that you can...
Continue your point. We'll ignore that.
I was gonna say... You could always catch people out with Shockwave because some people ignore the ball when they push back against you, but maybe not for the next minute.
No, I think it's going to be, Chains of Corruption down as well. Ultimate's missing, left, right, and center. Cocoon misses. Whoa, that's a massive shot onto Tilting. I feel like that was a headshot from the trap. Young Cat going to be protected as a piercing arrow doesn't seem to hit the mark either. Shockwave, half on that cooldown, but Legacy Genesis, do they know right now? Because it is 20% CDR.
Yes, they do. Or they should have a rough idea.
Rough idea.
Yeah, a rough idea that it's about...
We're pushing Nami.
Yeah, it's about a third.
Look at this. K-pop.
It doesn't really matter who's the one pushing.
He's the 1-3-1.
Yeah, so long as you're empowering the Baron.
Redemption to come through, repel up into the air, but the turret does go down. The inhibitor turret means the inhibitor will be exposed. And yeah, he's going to be healed up by the ebb and flow from K-pop. And Outlaws get another objective on the map. Gold still stands at about 9,000. But Outlaws now rotate bottom lane. Now look for something else. It's going to be a 5-on-5. See if they force. Shockwave back available.
They definitely have to force because they don't Baron buff.
Oh, three-man Shockwave! Willaris finds it. In goes Flick to the skies if there was a Jace. Tilting running back to the Nexus. Hello, Tilting.
Help!
Goodbye, Tilting. Goodbye, Flick. Maybe not this time, but he will be sent with his bags packed, ready to go overseas. Legacy Genesis, 3 are dead, and Outlaws are streamlining into this base.
And they almost look unstoppable. I mean, yeah, it's very easy to say that Outlaws have got it simply because of the sheer amount of gold, but you got to take a look at the way that they executed it. The early game teleport that went down into the bottom lane by Flick in order to get himself the quadra kill and the ace for his team, that was really the point of no return, in which Legacy Genesis, as well as they tried, which they did try extremely well to come back against Outlaws, they just didn't make mistakes.
But they're all coming up now. Maybe can't edit it now. Chains of Corruption, they get one. Flick is incredibly low. Tilting. Does he have the Strangle Thorns? Flick goes back in. What? He picks up one with the help of Willaris. Almost gets Tilting. And here we go. Willaris flashes away. Unleashed power. Great skill shot from the Syndra. Cough, cough. But Young Cat is being caught out as well. It's a little bit messy. Outlaws, however, have broken the mid lane inhibitor. Baron is not available. Dragon is not available. They still hold strong.
Yeah, and that was just Outlaws being way too greedy. They didn't have Baron buff anymore, which means that the minions weren't going to be empowered. And most of all, pretty much every single one of them were low. And only one person can get healed up by Ebb and Flow at any given time. So they just went way too deep trying to finish this game off. It's not going to hurt them too much, but it's going to give Legacy Genesis enough breathing room in order to come back and collect themselves. And that's exactly what we're going to do as well, because we're going to take a look at the way that they stand paired up against Outlaws. It's not looking great for this team, because they've lost out 3 dragons against the enemy. Next Mountain Drake is coming up right now. Baron's coming up in 2 minutes. There's not a lot that Legacy can potentially do, especially not considering that their mid inhibitor's down.
And considering that this is going to be a Mountain Drake going down to Outlaws. I mean, I feel like the game has already found its conclusion. Legacy Genesis, if they held out long enough, potentially. We didn't talk about the mid lane because Willaris hasn't had enough credit this game. He's played a mean Orianna game. That 3-man Shockwave was life-changing. Like you've just gone to Mexico and had a fantastic summer, and you just found out how cheap everything was. That is a 3-man Shockwave at least. And Willaris executing it perfectly, you know, is making Hayri look bad. And we talked about Hayri. We talked about he needs to perform in the competitive environment. And I was harping on about it. But you can see right here, 2-6-3, hasn't had the greatest game. And Willaris, you know, bullied out a little bit in the early game. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Flick, what are you doing?
Has been caught out. Here's the ultimate from Zyra. Flick being taken down. Baron's coming up in 40 seconds. Big death timers. Outlaws, I mean, they can try and get the bottom lane inhibitor.
Yep, they're going to trade for an inhib. That's what they're trying to do.
But no one from Legacy Genesis can back quick enough. So Willaris is pretty much just going to push this down. Here we go. Could be a life-changing ultimate.
Oh, no,
Artifact comes in.
3-man.
3-man Cataclysm. Shockwave goes on to Hayri. Willaris solos him back. But look at this. The AoE damage. Willaris starting to clean this up. A double kill just when it looks good for Legacy Genesis. 2 members down. They even out the playing field. And Outlaws look hungry for more.
And when Flick falls off, Willaris comes online. And Flick just says, take all of my energy, buddy. You're the person who's going to be carrying.
Gimme.
And if Willaris is the trip to Mexico that changed your life, the Vibes is the Corona on top that really helped you enjoy your entire experience, made sure that Willaris had a good time early on, and just really helped him get through the laning phase.
Willaris having the game of his life. A shutdown. This guy is so huge. Tilting has to be careful. Another double kill. And Flick just wants to be in the final photo. Say cheese, boys, because Outlaws are 2-0.
And man, I don't want to say that their composition was cheesy, but they still performed excellently with that composition.
Okay, let's talk about power rankings. We didn't put Outlaws in top 4. I'm changing my mind. Even with Scam, you know, interchanging, with Rain interchanging, Willaris and Flick look fantastic as well. These guys are actually making other teams look, you know, kind of lower.
Well, hold on. So I don't want to, like, be the party pooper here, but it's not all...
After we went to Mexico and had that experience.
It's not all rainbow and sunshine and all of that, because there were a few things that didn't work towards Outlaws' favor. Of course, their vision didn't really work out a lot for them because they were caught out. Flick was getting baited time and time again. And this is really just like when you go to Mexico with your partner, and yeah, you're having a good honeymoon, but at the end, who's going to pay for it? Oh, man, Wards of Nowhere.
You coming to Mexico, Mendrix?
Oh, this Mexico part is just...
All right.
It's played us roll.
Let me help us all out. Outlaws looked like a team possessed there. It looked like Legacy Genesis who should be performing, and Hayri bullied out. Just not really getting up to that level of Syndra, but Willaris like 10-2 in the end.
It really, like, I want to take this like a step back in terms of what we're looking at this. Because let's look at this in terms of the draft phase.
Yeah.
Immediately, the first things that you go, okay, Plug gets his Kha'Zix, probably wants that, you know, comfort pick, wants something that he can do well and perform well when he gets into the game.
Yeah.
Immediately, you get lane priority just picked up across the board. They get the Caitlyn, they get the Renekton. That's basically those 2 lanes. Pretty much one less jungler intervenes. But they use that to leverage it. They get themselves ahead early, especially getting Flick, getting that early kill.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden, starts paying dividends for him. Then all of a sudden, that bot lane's doing really well as well. Legacy start to turn it around, and that big team fight, that first 5-man team fight, already the 2 key members that come out on top and make that work are the ones who are basically controlling the game from then on. Flick and Willaris. Those 2 guys had basically picked up both the kills and the assists from that. Devon's reaping the spoils of war, and they didn't just waste it, they used it.
I think Outlaws, I mean, you know, you could go through the whole team. I think Young Cat's performing as well. I think, you know, we look at Vibes. Vibes is having the time of it. Like, Vibes actually performing really well. And I'm going to have a big look at him this next week and say, like, okay, is there a weakness with this guy? Because right now, I feel like maybe a bit more vision control, as you were saying. You know,
Yep.
both of you were saying that, yes, the ward priority needs to come up. But Outlaws as a mob feel like they're in contention for one of the top spots.
And one thing you have to live in that, like, the Dragon Gods were favoring them that day. I saw the 3
Oh,
Infernals.
yeah.
You guys were harping on about it. I'm just like, this is just,
the mountain.
this is ridiculous. I sent a tweet out to Outlaws saying, you guys have, like, been doing sacrifices to the Dragon Gods or something, because that is ridiculous. 3 Infernals just gifted to you.
Absolutely. We are going to go to a 5-minute break, however, and then when we come back, we got our last game of the day for the Oceanic Challenger Series. Please don't go anywhere. Why am I pleasing you? I don't know. Just come back. You know you want to see Abyss Academy. We'll be right back to show you. See you soon.